Gridiron Betting Insights right here on QLTV. I'm your host, Jay Sanin, and tonight we got a loaded show for you as we preview week 7 on the NFL season. Can you believe we've already made it to week 7? It feels like it just started, and already we're almost nearing the halfway point of the season. But we will preview every game on the NFL schedule. And as we do every Thursday, we start it with our Thursday night football pregame for Giants Eagles. After that, of course, we look at the BetQL game of the week. We also go through the rest of the schedule really quickly in a segment that I call Slants. And at the end of the show, we give you our week 7 picks for this NFL season. I have 6 picks on deck. And of course, one of them happens to be playing out tonight on Thursday night. If you happen to be watching live on BetQL, thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. Of course, feel free to weigh in throughout the show in the chat boxes, whether it's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, however you're watching the show. We appreciate you watching and being a part of the festivities here on the GBI show. So we'll start out tonight with our Thursday night football preview, Giants, Eagles. And if there was a sign that 2020 was bleak, well, I don't think it gets any more clear than our TV viewing options tonight being Giants, Eagles, and another presidential debate. That's 2020 in a nutshell. It is a night where your two viewing options are Giants Eagles and those two guys going back and forth. Not great, but we're going to make the best of it. We are going to break down this game, and I do have a play. I'll get it out to you now so you can, run, place your bets, do whatever you got to do. I don't know if you need to run if you can bet on your computers or mobile devices, but either way, I am on, surprisingly, even though I'm wearing Giants gear, I am on the Eagles -5 tonight against the New York Giants. And we'll talk a little bit about this game. Two of the bottom 3 teams in the NFL this season, according to Football Outsiders, their rankings have the Giants at 31, the Eagles at 30. So this is a pretty bleak matchup across the board. Giants 1-5 straight up this season. However, they are 3-3 against the spread so far this year, covering in all their road games, by the way, which this is one. We'll see if the Giants can keep that streak alive or if the Eagles snap it here tonight. Of course, the Eagles come into this game at 1-4-1. They are 0-2-1 against the spread at home so far this season. And I'm going against those trends tonight. And I have a few reasons, and not all of them statistical as per the norm. Now, these teams, largely the same identities, cultures, management in place over the last few years. New York Giants over the last 4 years, 0-4 on Thursday night games. During those 4 games, the last 3 of them, they've lost them all by double figures. And the last 2, they've lost by 21 points apiece. This is not a team and a franchise that has handled these Thursday night games well, at least during this current Dave Gettleman run iteration of the Giants. Very concerning heading into a game tonight, even if you're facing a rather uninspiring Philadelphia Eagles team. The Eagles, on the other hand, tremendous on Thursday nights over the last 4 seasons. During that same time frame in which the Giants have gone 0-4, the Eagles 5-0 straight up in Thursday night football games. That includes a 2018 season where they beat the Falcons on the season opener and then won an additional Thursday night football game later in the year. They clearly have proven they can handle the short rest situation that the Thursday night game puts on them. Now, last time the Eagles lost a Thursday night football game, 2015 against the Detroit Lions, not the Carolina Panthers, I apologize, the Detroit Lions. The quarterback was Mark Sanchez. So during the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia / the Nick Foles era for that one season where they, rode the replacement to a Super Bowl, Eagles haven't lost on Thursday. This is a situation they clearly thrive in, and I think they continue to do so here tonight. Huge boost for the Eagles, by the way, in the way of the injury report. Lane Johnson, offensive tackle, key component to that offensive line. He's struggled with injury issues for years. He will be available for tonight for Philadelphia. Could be a huge difference maker for that Eagles team. Against the Giants team, their strength is on defense, but that's only because their offense is just outright putrid. Now, last week, the New York Giants come off a win against the Washington football team. A 20-19 game. We talked about it on Tuesday. Giants never learned. They had a chance last year. If they just dropped a game late in the season to the Washington football team, they would have been in a position to draft Chase Young. They won that game. They end up with Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, not impressed. This season, they do the same thing against Washington, but that doesn't make them a good team. You look back at these last couple of years for the Giants. I mean, they've beaten who? They've beaten Washington a couple of times. They played a game against the Lions where they weren't terrible last year. They beat the Jets. These are victories that don't make you a decent team. And I think without that win last week, a win that, again, wasn't impressive against one of the worst offenses in the league in Washington, I think this line would be even higher than it is right now. You compare that to the way the Eagles are playing, and while the wins have not been there for Philadelphia, they have played significantly better than what we've seen in the first few weeks over these last couple of weeks. They lose at Pittsburgh, but a high scoring game. They found the connection between Carson Wentz and Fulgham in the wide receiving game. And they brought that into the game against Baltimore last week. They were getting beat up by Baltimore, but they hung tough. They came back in that game. And if not for a botched 2-point conversion where an offensive lineman runs into Carson Wentz, almost knocks him all the way to the ground himself. It was kind of like a self-sack, an own goal in soccer parlance. The Eagles could have very well tied that game, and who knows with the way the momentum had shifted in that game if they don't steal a win. The Eagles playing much better football right now than are the New York Giants, regardless of what the records say. And I think that is the most important thing heading into tonight. We talk about numbers a lot on the show, and we're going to talk about numbers throughout the show in quick slants. And when we talk about the BetQL game of the week in just a little bit, not a huge statistical advantage either way in this game. Again, nothing really all that impressive statistically on either side. That's why these teams are rated as poorly as they have been this season. But I think what you have here is a cultural edge for the Philadelphia Eagles that sometimes doesn't make it into the statistical outputs. When you're facing a team like the Giants, I mean, and this is not a compliment to the Eagles, by the way. I'm not saying they have a pristine organizational culture. That franchise has its share of warts, even if they've won a Super Bowl relatively recently. They haven't followed up on it. They've been pretty disappointing in spite of that. But when you look at the New York Giants, they have shown that any sort of adversity, any sort of complex situation, they fold repeatedly. These Thursday night football games are a perfect example. You have a very limited amount of time to prepare, and the Giants have proven time and time again they just can't do it. Now you have a first-year head coach trying to lead that short prep period. And of course, yes, cool, he knew Bill Belichick at one point. I don't think Joe Judge is going to be able to out-coach Doug Peterson in this game. And again, that's not to say Peterson is an elite coach in this league. It is simply to say the Giants just rotten to the core at this point. I think the Eagles get the better of them. I am laying the 5 with Philadelphia. We have Kang C checking in. He likes the over in this game. It's an interesting play. It is a low total. And Thursday night, I think the defenses do have a harder time getting up for that game with less time to prepare than do the offenses. So interesting angle on the over. I am on the Eagles. Of course, if you want to tell me who you're on throughout this show, feel free to do so. But for me, it's Philadelphia minus the 5. You can get 4.5 leading up to kickoff. There are some better numbers out there. I happen to, I don't know, I guess I got caught in a weird spot where the line went down initially. I grabbed the 5. It went down a little bit more. Could have got a better number if I had just waited. Either way, Eagles minus 5 for me. And we're to the BetQL game of the week. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Niners Patriots. Interesting game this week. An inter-conference matchup. Niners 2-point dogs at the Patriots. Total set at a low 43.5. This opened, by the way, at some shops at Niners plus 5.5. It's gone down consistently. People taking the points with the 49ers. And this is an interesting spot. This is a spot that I normally like to go against the grain. You have a spot where the Niners looked excellent last week in Sunday Night Football against the Los Angeles Rams. They were wearing those throwback jerseys with kind of the shadow behind the numbers, looked real snazzy, and they beat up on the Rams for much of that game. Game really not even as close as the final score appeared. And you look at them compared to the Patriots last week, Patriots losing outright to the Denver Broncos, losing 18-12. The battle of 18-12 won by the Denver Broncos there, as 6 field goals was enough to beat Cam Newton and the Patriots. Now, you got to dig a little deeper when it comes to these two situations. The Niners did that against a Rams team that, if you really look at it, hasn't beaten anybody outside of the NFC East this season. We still don't know if the Rams are good. And we'll talk about that later in the show. We still don't know if the Rams are any good. Patriots, meanwhile, coming off of a very adverse situation over the last couple of weeks. Cam Newton had COVID. Stephon Gilmore had COVID. And more importantly than the health of those players, because Cam Newton was able to get back on the field afterwards. I'm not turning this into a whole how severe was it situation. All I'm saying is the practice facility was shut down for a large period of time over those last couple of weeks. They did not have a normal preparatory period before taking on the Denver Broncos, who were able to operate as normal with a bye week on top of it at their facility. This week, the Patriots finally have some continuity. They're finally going to be able to play a game and prepare for it the way that you would expect a Bill Belichick coach team to prepare for. Now, on top of that, you got to remember here, Bill Belichick knows a thing or two about Jimmy Garoppolo, the now quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Belichick, probably better than anybody in the league besides his current coaching staff, knows the tendencies of Garoppolo, likely knows how to play him better than any other coach in this league. Also, you have the angle of Bill Belichick shutting down Kyle Shanahan's offense in the Super Bowl a few years back, at least in the second half, when the Atlanta Falcons blew a 28-3 lead to the New England Patriots. Not significant in this game, in terms of how it's going to play out, but things to keep in mind when you're putting together your handicap of the contest. Now, the Patriots, 2-3 this season, but 2-1 straight up and against the spread at home. So they're not as bad as they seem, at least in Foxborough. And of course, we have to remember that one loss coming against the Broncos, coming during that strange COVID-induced rest period where they couldn't fully go to their facilities and things of that nature. Niners, meanwhile, they have played 2 away games this season. They won both. They covered in both. Good for them. But who do they come against? They came against the New York Jets and the New York Giants, who, in my opinion, 2 of the 3 worst teams in the NFL as of right now. We talked about that on Tuesday when we did the GBI show power rankings for the second time. Now, Raheem Mostert still not likely to go for the Niners this week. BetQL, by the way, predicting that the Niners are a 1.5 point underdog. Their projections have the Niners as a 1.5 point dog as opposed to a 2-point dog. So not a lot of value here against the spread compared to what the projections say and what the line actually is. For me, it's going to be a pass for not only that reason, but again, statistics pointing to the Niners, but everything else, in my opinion, says the Patriots have a bounce back game this week. Not enough for me either way to make a decision on this one. Now, of course, if you want more information, more projections, go to betql.co. Use promo code SANIN, S-A-N-I-N, at the bottom of your screen. Save on all subscriptions. They run over 10,000 simulations per NFL game. They give you projected scores. You can look at them, compare them to the spread, to the total, see where there is value in those markets, and make yourself some money. Again, promo code SANIN, save 20% at betql.co. Now, we do this every week. It's a segment we call Quick Slants. And it's a segment where I struggle to keep my breath, and not just because I'm rather large. No, it's a segment where we go through every game remaining on the schedule, and we preview it really quickly. So let's get right to it. Quick Slants, ladies and gentlemen, for Week 7. We will start out with the Dallas Cowboys. They're a pick'em at the Washington football team, total of 46. Now, this opened Dallas -3, and understandably, everything dropped out when everybody saw the way Dallas played against the Arizona Cardinals last week. But I'm going to take another shot at the Dallas Cowboys this week. I'll tell you why. Last week, the Cowboys played an explosive offense in the Arizona Cardinals. And if you look at the Cowboys' schedule, yes, their defense has been putrid. But let's look game by game at the games that they have played so far this year. And you realize, okay, it might not be as bad as we currently think. They played the Rams, Cleveland Browns, who can put points on the board in bunches, as we've seen. The Atlanta Falcons, not a great team, but a team that can score, that has weapons in the receiving game. Arizona, who can move the ball over the field. We saw it with Kyler Murray. And of course, the Seattle Seahawks, who might be the best offensive team in football this year. In between those 6 games, they played the Giants once. They played one bad offense. They played 5 good to great ones so far this season. So when we talk about the Dallas Cowboys being a bad defensive team, I think context matters at least a little bit. They're not going to go out there and give up 38 points to the Washington football team. Washington football team this season 0-3 at home so far this season, and rated by most metrics to be a bottom 5 offensive team in the league. Kyle Allen has proven nothing so far this season for the football team. Of course, they benched Dwayne Haskins. Unlikely we're going to see Alex Smith. It was great to see him out there, but without any protection for him out there, I don't know if they're going to risk him any further. I guess we'll see what happens as the season wears on. But I like the Cowboys in this game. I don't think what you saw on defense and what you saw on offense is going to be as bad this week against the Washington football team, who, while solid defensively, will at least give you some opportunities by going 3 and out on offense and giving your offense some opportunities to tire out the defense and get some short fields for your offense. Cowboys just never really had that chance, and you're hoping that Zeke Elliott doesn't fumble another 2 times in this ball game. Give me Dallas to win it outright as a pick'em. Next up, we are going to go with the Carolina Panthers, 7.5-point dogs at the New Orleans Saints, total of 51. Saints, they have a reputation. They're a run and gun team who plays okay defense, but not great. Well, this season, they've been kind of average offensively and spectacular on the defensive side of the ball, which begs the question, can Carolina make anything happen on the offensive end? Now, last week, the answer to that question was no. They looked awful offensively against the Chicago Bears team, who, yes, has an exemplary defense. But Carolina is going to take on another team with a solid defense this week in New Orleans. They're unlikely to have Christian McCaffrey for this game. Now, Panthers allowing nearly 5 yards a carry on defense this season. What does that mean? That means we're going to see Alvin Kamara in bunches for this New Orleans offense. It's a no play for me with the hook, but I do believe the Saints win the game. My concern, a backdoor cover might be in play with that 7.5. You could lead by 14 the whole game. You run the ball 3 times and punt late in the game. Carolina goes down the field. You might not cover the spread there, and you might lose out on a chance at a push as well. If you can wait it out, if it drops to 7, maybe you give it a go. 7.5, I do not recommend. Another game I'm playing this week, Green Bay Packers, 3.5-point favorites at the Houston Texans, total of 57. A tale of 2 very good offenses in this game, 2 abysmal defensive units, both teams allowing over 7 yards per pass attempt to their opponents this season. Rodgers and Deshaun Watson should both have big games in this contest. Now, we have questions on both sides here. For the Packers, are they the team we saw the first few weeks of the season, or are they the team that we just saw in Tampa Bay go up by 10 and then get absolutely obliterated by Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? For the Houston Texans, is what we're seeing post Bill O'Brien real? Because it's been extremely impressive so far. They came out and destroyed the Jacksonville Jaguars, beat them by 16 points, did what they were supposed to do at home in that game. They followed it up, though, with a very nice performance at the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, haven't lost a game yet this season. Texans lost that game in overtime. If Romeo Crennel takes an extra point instead of going for 2 to try to put it away late, trying to go up 9 instead of going up by 8, we could have seen an entirely different result there. We could have seen the Houston Texans win that ball game outright. I love what the Houston Texans have been post Bill O'Brien. They seem to have the passing game up and running again, and they have a chance here to put it into use against a Green Bay team who is terrible against the pass as it is and is playing their second straight road game, and both of those road games being in the South, not ideal travel circumstances for the Packers. Give me the Texans plus 3.5 in this game to cover the spread I think this might be one of those games where whoever has the ball last wins it. But I think that no matter what, you're looking at most a field goal game in favor of Green Bay, or Houston taking advantage of a road weary Packers team runs away with it. Or hey, who knows? Maybe they win close. Either way, give me the Texans and the points. Buffalo up next, 12.5 point favorites at the miserable, horrible New York Jets, total of 45. We need to take a second and appreciate what the Jets have done here so far this season. 0-6 straight up, and 0-6 against the spread. I mean, that is the reason the spread exists, is to somewhat equalize the two teams and make it as difficult as possible to pick a winner. If you pick against the Jets every week, you win. With that said, I am not taking the Bills at 12.5. That is too big a number for me. This opened around 10 and has ballooned since then. If you got the 10, good for you. I'm not chasing the steam at 12.5. Jets near the bottom of the league in every offensive and defensive category so far this season. Sam Darnold, still limited in practice. We might not see him this week. But to me, it doesn't matter whether you either get a rusty Sam Darnold or you get Joe Flacco. Those are not good options. They can stop the run a little bit. That's the one saving grace with this Jets team. And the Bills, abysmal at running the football so far this season, under 4 yards a carry as a team. Too big a number for me at 12.5. But I get it. If you're blind fading the Jets right now, I completely understand, because they are not playing like a professional football team at this point in time. How Adam Gase still has a job to this point, beyond me. Next up in quick slants, Browns -3 at the Bengals, total 50.5. Now, we've seen this matchup already this season. It was Thursday Night Football early on in the year, and the Cleveland Browns took care of business. They beat up on rookie Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals 1-1 straight up and against the spread at home this season. You got to keep in mind that one win and one cover both came against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's not an impressive win. Not going to put too much stock in them being 500 at home. The running game going to be a huge difference maker in this contest as far as I'm concerned. Cleveland gaining over 5 yards a carry on the ground, one of the best marks in the league in terms of their yards per carry average. Cincinnati giving up over 5 yards a carry on the ground on defense so far this year. And that's troublesome for the Bengals, because that means Cleveland can control the clock. They don't have to force anything with Baker Mayfield. And that's when Cleveland's at their worst, when they get behind and Baker Mayfield has to start slinging it. He's turnover prone. He is. But when they're able to run the ball, control the clock, and then use that to set up the passing game to the Jarvis Landrys and Odell Beckhams of the world, that's when the Browns are at their best. I think they're going to be at their best because of that in this game. I will lay the 3 points in this game. You get the key number. That's a great situation. And of course, it also helps me go against Joe Burrow for yet another week. I do not see it with him yet this season. Give me the Browns -3. Now the Steelers, battle of undefeateds here. They're now +1 against the Titans, total 50.5. I told you on Tuesday I was on the Steelers -1, so it swung through 0. If you don't play it at 1, play the money line at that point. But either way, you can get a better number than I did on the Steelers when I got it in the Sunday look ahead. Now, I mentioned it on Tuesday. Taylor Lewan out for the season for the Titans, and that's a crushing blow, especially against a team that leads the league in sacks. The Steelers, 24 sacks this season, number 1 in the NFL. Also a good run-stopping team. That means Derrick Henry gets shut down for the most part. I mean, you're never going to fully shut him down, but you slow him down. You force Ryan Tannehill into predictable passing situations, and that's when the pass rush can get after him with Lewan out of action. I like the Steelers in this game. I think it's a bad matchup for Tennessee. I will lay the 1. You can take the money line with the Steelers at their current number. Either way, I think it's a good situation. Next up, battle of 2 bad teams, ladies and gentlemen. Lions +2.5 at the Falcons, total of 55 points. Now, this is the Falcons' first home game without Dan Quinn. They are 0-3 straight up and against the spread at home so far this year when they were playing under Quinn. Detroit can't stop the run. The Falcons can't stop the pass, as Detroit giving up nearly 5 yards a carry this season. Falcons giving up about 8.5 yards per pass attempt on the year. The question is, can either side make the other one pay for those shortcomings on defense? I don't trust either one of them enough to do so. I don't trust Matt Stafford to put it in the air on the road, and unless you're playing Jaguars like he was last week, and I don't trust the running game of the Falcons to really punish that porous run defense of the Lions not taking part. Unless, I mean, if you're somebody who's inclined to take the over, I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense on each side in this game, but for me, it's a no-go. Next up, Bucks Raiders. Not going to get too deep into this game because we don't know what's happening with it yet. It got moved from Sunday Night Football to the 4 o'clock slate, and we'll talk about the game that has replaced it in just a little bit. But the reason for that, some offensive linemen for the Raiders coming down with COVID-19. They're missing like 5 offensive linemen now. And I mean, we'll see what happens with that, but I doubt this game gets played on Sunday. So it is currently off the board. Next up, quick slants. Chiefs -9.5 at the Broncos. Total 45.5. Broncos coming off that big win against the Patriots last week. Chiefs with a nice win on the road in the weather against the Buffalo Bills. Chiefs 5-1 against the spread this season. Question is, can the Broncos slow down Patrick Mahomes in this offense? Denver, their reputation, that of a very good defensive team. But against the Chiefs, the last 4 times they've met, the last 2 seasons, they have only held the Chiefs below 27 points once out of those 4 games. And that's going to be tough. I mean, you give up anywhere close to that, you're asking a lot of this Denver offense that has not gotten it in gear yet this season. I like the contrarian play on the Broncos as an idea. I like it in theory, but I am not going to be taking the points or laying the points in this one. I am staying off this game, thanks in large part to the anemic offense of the Denver Broncos so far this season. I don't think 6 field goals is going to win you a game against Kansas City. That's just my opinion. Next up on quick slants, we have the Jaguars. They are 7.5-point underdogs at the Los Angeles Chargers, total 49. Justin Herbert, by the way, lapping Joe Burrow in the race for Rookie of the Year. He has been tearing it up. He is 3rd in the NFL in yards per pass attempt so far this season, taking on a Jaguars defense that might not even be professional quality at this point in the year. Just got lit up at home by the Detroit Lions. I don't want to lay this big a number with a rookie quarterback, even if it is against a bad team. We've seen the Chargers struggle to score during some of their games this season. So 7.5, a little bit too big for me. No play on the total either. We will move on to Sunday Night Football. That game, Cardinals, 3.5-point underdogs at home against the Seattle Seahawks, total of 56. Again, this game moved to Sunday Night Football because of the Raiders' COVID situation. 2 explosive offenses in this game. Over 6 yards of play by both teams so far this season, both well into the top 10 in that regard so far this year. We're going to see a lot of movement from the quarterbacks in this game. Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray both can break the pocket, make plays with their arm and with their legs. Which team is going to do a better job of containing them? I would love to say Arizona here. I really would. But without Chandler Jones to put pressure on Russell Wilson, I do not trust the defense of Arizona, who may be a little overvalued after what we saw them do to Andy Dalton and the Cowboys last week. I'm going to stay away from this game. Again, another play where I like the Cardinals in theory, but with a depleted pass rush, you can't win against Russell Wilson, at least reliably enough, in my opinion, to justify a play here. Speaking of justified plays, let's look at Monday Night Football. Bears +6 at the Rams. I'm not in love with this Bears team this season. I call them maybe the worst 4-1 team in the history of the league. That was a week ago. That didn't age well because they moved to 5-1. So I don't know, maybe they're the worst 5-1 team in the history of the NFL. Either way, I like them more than I like the Rams at this juncture. And I'll tell you why. The Rams, impressive record so far this season. They're 2-0 at home. But despite being 4-2 straight up on the year, they've only beaten the 4 teams in the NFC East, the worst division in football. Nobody's above 500. 3 of the teams have just 1 win so far this season, and the other one was the season opener against the Dallas Cowboys, who, I mean, they've completely exploded. And again, the fact that the Rams only scored 20 points against that Dallas Cowboys defense, not encouraging. Not an encouraging sign. The Bears, Not great this season, but defensively, I think they will get the better of the Rams here. This is a series, by the way. The last couple of times that they've played over the last few years, less than 25 total points scored in both of those games. Of course, one of them was in Chicago when it was absolutely frigid. It was a winter game. Can't fault the offenses too much there, but low scoring football from both teams when they do play. I think that benefits the Bears at this number. I mean, you're getting 6 in a series where teams sometimes don't get to double digits. I think it bodes well for the Bears against the Rams team led by Jared Goff, who has struggled historically when facing pressure, and there isn't anybody better in the league at bringing pressure than Khalil Mack. So while I don't love Nick Foles, I do like the number here for the Bears. Give me them plus 6 points. That was quick slants. Now let's talk about our picks for this week. Last week, we went 0-4, gentlemen. Not going to hide from it. That's a thing that happened. We dropped from 15-10, batting 60%, down to 15, 14-2, which is barely keeping our head above water. This week, we talked about them during quick slants and during the rest of the show here today. I have 6 picks, ladies and gentlemen. Talked about it on Tuesday. Steelers -1 over the Titans. Tonight, Eagles -5 over the Giants. Cowboys pick 'em over the Washington football team. Cleveland Browns -3 over the Bengals. The Texans +3.5 over the Packers. And on Monday Night Football, the Chicago Bears +6 points against the Los Angeles Rams. Those are your 6 picks. A frosty 6-pack of picks for you on Thursday here on the GBI show. Now that concludes our show for this week. Of course, we will be back on Tuesday to recap the week, talk about what we learned, and have some fun here on Tuesday. For now, thank you so much for tuning into the GBI show. This is Jay Sanin saying good night. Good luck on your bets this weekend. Go Habib, and we'll